Hello and welcome back to Tap Into Wisdom. Today I have an important topic to dive into, personal growth, and why it sometimes feel like we are not evolving as fast as we would like. Are you finding yourself stuck in a rut? Do you feel like your progress is slower than expected? Well, you're not alone. Personal growth is a journey and it's not always linear path. In this video, we're going to explore some of the key reasons why your personal growth may be stagnating and how you can break free from these limitations. Before we get started, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an opportunity to tap into wisdom that can change your life. So let's dive in. Our first point is about creating your own structure. You see, personal growth doesn't just happen on its own. It requires a framework that works you and supports your optimal performance. If we are waiting on others to tell us what is the best for us, we're going to keep waiting forever. No one can tell what we need to do to be optimal. Others can give us tips, they can give us an idea, they can tell us like what works for them best, but ultimately it's on us to create the structure where we can find our own flow. It comes down to what you eat, when you eat. I don't know, for me, I know that fasting works really well. If I know that I have an important meeting or I have to make a decision, then fasting for the first part of the day really makes my brain work more optimally. That's one thing. Then exercise. When would you like to exercise? Morning, middle of the day, afternoon, whatever is the best for you. We need to think about these things and find what works best for us. To give you an idea, I was just in Australia for the Women's World Cup. I was based in Sydney. For the first couple of days, it was a bit difficult trying to get adjusted to a completely different time zone. There's a significant hour difference, and my body went through a stage where it wasn't really sure whether it's morning, the afternoon. I had to explore how to make myself feel more optimal. And one of those things was exercise. I found that I cannot really exercise first thing in the morning. And also I don't want to exercise too late. So what you do at that moment? Well, we had a custom lunch break between 12 and 1 o'clock or 12 and 2 o'clock, depending on how you basically scheduled your work. So what I thought about was, okay, let me go and exercise in the middle of the day. So to break it up in 2 days, so the morning part and then the afternoon part. But no one else was doing it. So I was kind of cautious at first. What will others think if I do it? Will they think I'm just leaving? Will they think I'm slacking? But you see, all of these were just my own ideas about what others will think of me. And instead of just going and doing it, I wasted a day or two worrying about something which ultimately no one else was really thinking about. And that feeling when you kind of go and do your thing, which you wanted to do or which you're designed to do, really empowers you because you realize that, hey, I can actually create my own structure and find my own flow. And that's how I can work my best. So my first thing would be to just emphasize the need for creating your own structure to find what routine works best for you and not just adopting whatever others are doing, because other people are doing what's best for them, so you have to take care of yourself and create a structure in which you can work the best. The second step I want to talk about is taking action. You see, many of us are waiting for something external to happen to kind of work as a sign that, okay, this is the time that we need to take the action. Now I'm ready. Now the stars have aligned. Something magical has happened. Now is the right time. But I don't know, I think you'll agree with me that these signs oftentimes don't happen. We can wait and wait and wait, and then we end up frustrating ourselves by not taking the action. If we promise something to ourselves that we'll do it only until the sign is there, we can keep waiting forever. At some point, we do have to simply pull the plug and go for it. We have to take the action. And the longer we wait, the more difficult it actually becomes. It's the same with issues, for example, in relationships. If you address the thing head on, it probably dissolves right away, or you can find ground and solution quickly. But if you let some accident, incident, frustration play out, if you sweep things under the rug, well, we know what's going to happen, right? After a while, all of that's just going to explode and you'll be like, where did this come from? Break free from stagnation, take the action. Another thing which I think can trap many of us is following everyone else's advice and not tuning into that of our own. You see, as I said about the structure, what works for some people may not work for you. So trying to look for others for validation of that being the right thing to do can also be counterintuitive. Nobody really knows what's best for us but us. We need to be clear about what our needs are, what works best for us, which environment we are feeling the best in, right? So we have to embrace that authenticity which we have. And I think it's just normal to keep trying, testing things. We don't really know what works for us. Sometimes the best way to do it is simply eliminate everything that doesn't. So don't just do things which others are doing just because. For example, if you're in an event and you don't feel that's kind of your type of vibe, let's put it that way. If you don't feel, I wouldn't say welcome, but you don't feel like you have to be there. You just feel like you're there just to make the appearances. Well, how about you stand up and leave? That feeling of taking charge and putting yourself in the first place is really empowering. It gives you a signal that you're really valuing your own time more than others'. It means that you're showing self-love and compassion by putting yourself first instead of just basically wasting the time in a place that you don't want to be in. It can be really empowering, and the more you embrace that, the more you realize that it's all about you. It's never about everyone else. It's only about yourself. How do you feel? How do you experience this life? Everything that we experience ultimately is an inner experience. The external just gives us these pictures, which we then interpret and sense within us. So whenever we're in a situation that we don't feel it's kind of really authentic or individual for us, don't try to just follow automatically on autopilot what everyone else is doing. Ask yourself, like, does this actually work for me? Does this suit me? Does this suit the person that I'm trying to be or to become? And be honest about what you need. Be honest about your needs. Be honest about your feelings. Be honest about what you want. Be honest about the steps that you want to take, what your goals are, how to enrich your life. Put yourself first and embrace your authenticity. Fourth element, and this is actually quite counterintuitive, and I had to learn it the hard way myself by burnout. It's the power of being able to unplug. It's the power of recovery. It's the power of relaxation, of having time for yourself. You see, the real mastery is not staying at the office 24/7. The real mastery is being able to use your energy and focus intentionally when it's required for specific action with specific outcome when it's desired, not 24/7. This is actually impossible. I think many people convince themselves that by them staying around, they can do more things, they can achieve more. But there's a lot of science that just suggests that after a certain benchmark of hours we spend in the office, it actually starts to go the other way. You see, our attention and our focus and our energy deteriorates. So although we are making more decisions and getting involved in more things, the quality of those decisions go down, the mistakes increases, and we might actually create a bigger issue for the long term than by simply waiting until tomorrow and dressing fresh, rejuvenated, relaxed. We need to embrace recovery as part of the performance. Best athletes spend more time in recovery resting than they do in the training. So what does that tell you about the performance? It tells you that the performance has to be scheduled intentionally on specific event at specific time in specific conditions. Staying in the office 24/7 is not that. And one more thing which maybe many people don't notice, especially if you're a leader, if you're a manager, and if you have a team that you are managing or leading, your energy influences everyone else around you. There's a lot of science about electromagnetic fields which impact people up to 2 meters in our field. This is our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions, our face, our structure, how we walk, how we talk, how we react. All of that influences people around us. So by overextending our stay in the office when we should really go home, we're actually negatively influencing people around us by simply looking worse, by not being in our full power and resource. So my invitation would be prioritize your rest and recovery before you think about the impact. Because if you're not in your full power, well, you cannot really support others as well, and you cannot have the best version of yourself out there. Think about that next time you're thinking, I need to do more with less energy. Being able to unplug and give yourself some time off to just simply relax and spend more time playing and spend more time just watching TV or going for a walk. It's a way of showing self-compassion. It's ultimately self-love. It's putting your own needs first. And this is what we keep coming back. We have to be able to prioritize our own resource. And that starts with having a compassionate approach towards what we need, first and foremost, not trying to slave our way by staying in the office or just always being on, always having the messages on, always having Teams open, always having emails there 24/7. You need to put yourself first, because doing so, you're also making sure that others benefit from the best version of you. Fifth point, and probably the most controversial, many of you will turn off and start to hate me, is about taking full responsibility of your reality. Even if it's wrong, even if it's bad, even if it annoys you, even if everyone else is wrong, even if things don't go your way, accept that. Accept it. Because it's only by accepting responsibility that we have the freedom to change it. When we don't accept the reality, when we're trying to push away, when we're trying to resist it, that causes trigger. That puts us into victim mindset. That tells us that we are not ready to embrace the reality and we're actually fighting against it. And fighting against creates limitations. It creates tension, it creates trigger, it creates friction. And sooner or later, this friction will start to burn you from within. It's because we're trying to resist that we are getting stuck in our world. And it doesn't really matter which area of your life you feel that you're stuck in. A lot of that comes down to not taking full responsibility about how you feel, about your own needs, about your own thoughts, about your own behaviors, about your own qualities as a person, as an employer, as a partner, as a father, as a brother, sister, whatever. Our life is our responsibility. And by taking full responsibility of everything that happens within us, that being our reactions to everything, we gain the power back. We actually take the power back from others, from the world, from my company, from my boss, from my partner. By taking the full responsibility or how I respond to that, I'm taking back the power. And then I can start changing it. Why do we get triggered? Well, it's because we're not seeing something. There is a lesson which we are not currently perceiving. We're not conscious of it. So instead of pushing it away and blaming someone else for it and saying, no, I know how the world will be like, everyone else needs to change because I'm right. My own reality and perception is the correct one. Everyone else is wrong. You should change, not I. That is the ultimate victim mindset that holds you back from taking the next step and elevating your game. Ask yourself, what am I not seeing here? What am I not accepting? What am I not learning? We must face uncomfortable lessons if we want to keep going, if we want to get to the next level. And pushing things away is not that. Embracing responsibility, taking care of how you feel, how you act, how you behave, this is it. And again, usually something is out of balance within that causes us to feel this way. So don't try to change the external world. Start by changing yourself. If something can actually trigger you, isn't that ridiculous? Someone else's actions can trigger you. So that means that someone else holds the power over you. Think about that for a moment. You're saying that person A reacting in a certain way doesn't allow you to feel good about yourself? It triggers you so much that you have to close up and start to fight? That's ridiculous, isn't it? Everything that happens simply happens, and it's our perception which actually creates the problem. We perceive it as wrong, and that's why it triggers us. But that wrong is actually our own belief about how things should be, and who is to tell that we know the best? We think we do, but ultimately, all of this life is a massive journey of experiencing, learning the lessons and accepting them, embracing them and moving forward. If you are stuck somewhere, it's most probably because you're not accepting something. And not accepting something means you're not taking full responsibility. Because if you do take full responsibility, you'd find ways how to resolve that, how to dissolve its power over you, how to feel free, how to be able to cooperate, communicate with people in a way that's harmonious, not aggressive, in a way that's collaborative instead of trying to divide people. That's real mastery. Take responsibility now, and you'll see your life will start to change tremendously. Another aspect which I saw magnificently by one of my colleagues, a leader of mine, is how we respond when things go wrong. You see, when something goes wrong, we usually perceive it as threat, as danger, and the ancient flight or freeze system kicks in. And when this happens, the access to our abilities, to our memory, to our skills is actually limited for a moment. Stress closes our prefrontal cortex, or at least limits its capacity for a brief moment of time. If you're trying to make a decision from that point, the decision will not be the best it can be. So what really high performers do is they take a step back after something goes wrong. They're not trying to solve it immediately. They're first trying to evaluate what is the bigger picture. How does ultimately this impact business needs? Is this something major or minor? Is it worth putting research into fixing it? Will this fix be worth it to take the risk of fixing it, or we just let it be? How many people are affected by that? What is the risk of fixing it? And ultimately, if I'm gonna put resource into fixing it, doesn't that take resource away from something else? So see, all these questions have to be evaluated by the leader, by decision maker. But he's not able to do that if he's reacting immediately to a trigger. Because when he's acting immediately to a trigger, if he's stressed, his pool of information is really limited. It's scientifically proven fact why people in stress make worse decisions. So whenever something happens that triggers you, where you have to make a decision, where there's an error, where you get angry email or someone is not happy about something, first, let the emotion pass. Don't resist it. Don't fight it. It's been proven scientifically. It takes 90 seconds for the biggest emotions to get through us. And once it flows through, then make your call, evaluate, analyze. Think about what is the best course of action and make a step from an informed and conscious perspective instead of just reacting to a trigger. Another aspect which I saw during my own time in the sports industry and what really determines and differentiates those who are at the highest level from the rest is thinking about why the issue happened and not just fixing it immediately. You see, the long-term play is understanding the underlying mechanics of something. It's not just trying to get away with the issue right away. Of course, it's part of the equation. But the bigger thing to understand, and there's a bigger lesson underneath it, understanding what caused this to happen in the first place. Because it's similar to when we're going to coaches or when we're going to anyone for support. Many people think that what we're trying to do is get away from the symptoms. Basically, heal me. Tell me what's wrong and get away with it. But this doesn't fix the issue at the core. We have to fix the well, not the tap, to use a metaphor with water. We have to understand the underlying root cause which caused this symptom to come out. Because if we don't deal with the bottom why, it will keep happening again and again and again. This is why where people go to retreats, they come back feeling amazing and a week later they're back where they were. Because ultimately they didn't understand why. They didn't understand the mechanism underneath it all. So they cannot make conscious decisions about what to change. Because they fix the issue and carry on, and then the fixture comes back a month, 2 months, 6 months later. But it's not fixed. It's only moved away from a time being. So top performers, they're looking for cause. They're looking for explanation. They're looking for the way it works. Because when they understand what caused it to happen in the first place, then they can take steps to basically prevent it from happening and ideally transform that into their own power. So think about that. One thing I noticed with myself as well, and I think this is a modern issue, is living in the future or in the past, but not in the present. To give you a funny example, before I was going to Australia for the Women's World Cup, I was saying, it's in 2 weeks I'm going to Australia. There's no point for me to invest my time to start tapping wisdom. When I was in Australia, I said, I'm now in Australia. I don't have the right environment to start tapping the wisdom. When I came back, I said, there's something else. There's 2026 World Cup is coming up, so there's no point in starting tapping the wisdom. And this kind of thinking happens all around us every single day. I heard people who say, we cannot be happy now because it hasn't finished yet. I'll hear people say, well, how are you? Ask me in 2 weeks when all of this is over. And what I realize is that we're not actually living in the present, but we're always working towards the next milestone. And there's nothing wrong with working towards our goals. The issue is not embracing the present moment. Because when we're not embracing the present moment, we're denying ourselves a really great experience of life. We're saying, when I do something, then I can relax. When I achieve this, then I'll be happy. When my kids grow up, then I can be free. But guess what happens? When then never comes. Because there's going to be different when then. It's going to be a different thing taking our attention away. We have to learn to embrace ourselves in the present moment, because what we are actually chasing is not a goal. It's not an outcome. It's a feeling. But a feeling is an internal sensation which we can tap into right now. Yes, we need certain tools and techniques to do that, and it doesn't happen just like this. And it's not that we can stay present all the time. It takes effort, it takes conscious action, and it takes discipline to actually be present. But the more present we are, the more fully immersed we are, the more we can actually also achieve, and achieve from a harmonious perspective. It's when we start to think about the future, when we're thinking about the past, that's when our abilities and our capacity actually goes away. Because really, what is life if not the present moment continuing forever? It's now, 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 now. The past only exists in our mind. The future hasn't happened yet. So really, the only thing you have is right now. So try to be more present. Try to be where your feet are. Try to bring all of you to the present moment, because present is your present. And one extra thing when talking about the present time and future, or when then thinking, if all of us are really looking after the outcome, then I assume that once we're all dead, that's mission accomplished, right? Well, of course not. So why are we thinking that achieving a certain goal, that's the gift? Why are we not embracing the journey instead? You see, there's multiple ways to arrive at the outcome. Let's use climbing to a mountain, achieving the peak, getting to the peak. I can hike there from the bottom. That's going to be one experience. I can take the train up to the mountain. That's going to be a different experience. I can look at the Instagram story from the person who did that. That's going to be another experience. Same outcome, different experience, right? Completely different journeys. So focus on the journey. Don't try to wait until the outcome. The outcome doesn't have any magical powers. I used to think that when I finish university, the world will open, something magical will happen. Guess what? COVID happened. I couldn't see any single one of my college professors, my friends, nobody. My graduation was me, myself in a room. Why? Because I was waiting for this final party to really tell everyone how much I really enjoyed this journey. Don't make the same mistake I made. Be more present, be more direct, be more intentional with where you are, with how you spend your time, and where your focus is in the moment. And I think to follow through from why not many of us are living in the present moment is because we're in a continuous run. We never, I wouldn't say never, but we rarely break the cycle of being in a chase after something. Of course, I know that all of our actions are ultimately outcome oriented, but we have to find space and time for integration, to restore our balance, to find the alignment, to reflect on things, to break this momentum, to stop for a moment and ask ourselves, how am I doing? How am I feeling? Are my needs being met? Am I happy? Am I fulfilled? What do I like? Why am I running around all the time? Why am I chasing after more money? Why am I chasing after more status, more power, more certifications, more courses? Why am I trying to cram up all of this experience? Is it fulfilling to me? Do I feel like satisfied? Or am I just going through the days because that's what life is? I used to think that life is just one big continuous accumulation of more things. And whoever accumulates the most wins. This is so foolish. Many people think that they want money. Well, if I'm going to give you a lot of money, but lock you inside a room, are you going to be happy? Are you going to be satisfied? You can't spend that money. Is that what you're looking for? Money only amplifies that which we already have within us. If what we're lacking is a connection with other people, more money is not going to resolve that. It's only going to further reinforce the gap, because people will see us differently. They'll be like, oh, look at them. They have it all figured out. And yet, we're empty. But we're empty because we haven't given ourselves the time and space to sit down and reflect. Like, how often do we simply go for a walk in nature without any devices? How often do we sit down with a notepad, with a journal to reflect, asking ourselves, what's on my head? What's on my mind? What's my heart thinking? How am I feeling? How often do we do that? And most importantly, how often is there a clear plan for our actions? How often are we approaching our days with intent, with deliberate focus? How often are we taking charge, full responsibility of the life? Are we living the life? Are we creating consciously the life which we want? Or are we simply going through the motions, not being sure what we want, yet blaming the world for being this way? Do you know what you want? We need to give ourselves time and space to integrate, especially after really stressful or really high action-packed events. We need to give ourselves space and time to reflect. What did we learn about this? How am I different? How could I use these lessons to change my reality, to change tomorrow, to make tomorrow more fun, to make tomorrow more interesting, more enthusiastic for myself? Life is whatever you believe it is, and that's a really powerful way which I want to end this first video on YouTube. Life is whatever we make it is. Our beliefs, our programs, or constructs of the mind, that really shapes up this experience which we have. Whatever we believe becomes a self-sabotaging reality, because we're looking for answers which ultimately fit this narrative, the story we have about ourselves, about other people, about the world itself. So many times, these conscious actions are not enough. There might be a deeper level construct which prevents us from consciously moving forward because it keeps holding us back. Again, coming back to the example with the root cause, if we're not able to fix the root cause, which for many people is trauma that's stored from the childhood or some sort of subconscious program or pattern or belief about what reality is like, we can do whatever we want. We're always going to be pushed back to that place. Because especially when we get stressed, our subconscious mind takes over, and we're not consciously even aware of that. Our subconscious mind, which drives 95% of our reality, 95%, happens on the autopilot based on the lessons, beliefs, and programs which we have made up mainly from our childhood. So when we think that we're not moving forwards quick enough, sometimes it can be exactly that which holds us back. For me, it was a certain belief I had about myself, which prevented me from taking courageous action to do what I ultimately wanted to do for myself, not what others wanted to do. Externally, I was really successful. Yet internally, I knew that this is not even scratching the surface because that wasn't my thing to do. We have to look within us. And if you're willing to take the next step, if you're willing to go deeper into understanding what holds you back from reaching and accelerating your life, I would welcome and invite you to visit tapinwisdom.com. It's a website which will allow you to book a call with myself, and we can see if we are the right fit for each other. I'm offering you a chance to find more peace, presence, and clarity of mind and understand what exactly is holding you back. And together we can find ways to transform that, to work not against you, but for you. So if you're ready, do that. But if not, complete respect. I fully respect your pace. All of us have to go at their own pace, whatever that might be. But I would encourage you to check out our Instagram page. It's called Tap in Wisdom, and you'll find many interesting tips about how to achieve holistic success from a place of harmony instead of aggression. And it's for free. I'm sharing it pretty much on a daily basis. There's going to be something there for you. It'd be amazing if you could drop us a follow. And remember to subscribe and like this video, because there's going to be more coming up, and I think more people will benefit from this. So the more engagement we can drive, the more it's better for everyone else. So thank you for your time. Thank you for watching, and have an amazing day. Bye.